All right, let's see here. Scroll this properly into place. Okay. Hi guys, Stanley Orr here, and I am just really excited for this. So basically what I'm doing here, as you might not know or might know or whatever, you might be out of the loop, this movie is currently, we have all the audio done for the voices, and I'm still working on the music, but we're trying to get some stuff for volunteers pulled together. In particular, I wanted to do a script reading, a series of script reading videos where I go through the script, make comments as I feel necessary, so sometimes I'll deviate from the script just when I feel like it's necessary, just to clarify or make things make more sense. And then also periodically play the audio from that what we actually have recorded and interject with narration and stuff. Basically, this way you guys can know what's going on, and anyone who's volunteer can come in and listen, and we don't have to keep scheduling meetings where we sit down and do script readings. This way you can just ask questions afterwards if you have any questions. So with that being done, let's just dive right into it, starting with sequence one. Yeah, let's just do it. So, okay, sequence one, welcome to your doom. Fade in. Exterior space. A single ship flies in the void. It's a security class spittle runner. Its lights are flashing, but there's no audible siren. As you see in the note, I thought it would add more tension to the scene. Also, I'm going to try to include, there's some concept art done for a lot of this stuff, some not. So I'm going to try and remember to include the concept art up on the screen, but if I forget, then my fault. Anyways, so as necessary, but we see a security class spittle runner flying silently in the void, and we cut to inside. The pilot is glaring intensely ahead, and in the background we see Squeech, a defective, is bound and tied. A guard, maybe not gagged, but because he needs to talk later on, but a guard is standing beside him looking really serious also, and we see like his pack short-circuiting a little to show that he's a defective. On the ship's display, we see that a warning flashes, and then we see from the ship's screen there's a massive disc-shaped object, pitch black against the rest of the void of space, and it dwarfs them, like it casts a shadow over the entire ship, very monolithic and ominous. We can't tell what it is, only that it's big and that the ship is approaching the disc's thick edge like head-on. So if we imagine... This is stupid. If we imagine this coffee cup lid as the disc in question, picture this thing the size of a solar system, right? And we're approaching the edge of the disc head on. The ship is flying towards it. And like the outside of the disc is shadowed because all the light is on the inside, casting. Maybe we see some rim lighting at the top. And imagine like a bunch, like an obscene amount of gun turrets aiming outwards, like it's definitely guarded to the nines. Like the entire outer perimeter, I'm gonna pull that up again. The entire outer perimeter of this would basically be made of nothing but turrets of varying sizes and shapes and types of weaponry jutting out and aiming at possible intruders. It's insane and cartoonish and ridiculous and awesome. So anyways, the ship is flying towards it. Cut to scene 3. Exterior Irken solar disk, that's that thing. The spittle runner begins traveling up the massive disk's side, like going up parallel with it. Light is gleaming over the top, like I said, just out of sight. Cut to an angle on one of the gun batteries in particular. Like I said, a cartoonish amount of, like, guns. I gotta remember not to scroll too far. Okay, that should be better. Anyways, cartoonish amount of firearms on the outside. We already established that. One of them scans the ship, close up on one gun battery in particular, going like and like locking in on the ship. We see from its point of view, so like we cut to the gun battery's point of view, we see its screen as it scans the ship, like, you know, readouts coming, text on the screen, identifies it as not a threat, and like it goes green, like a green chirp. It goes from red to green, no longer hostile after it scans and confirms that this ship is allowed to pass. Receives the ship's signal, maybe a stupid little happy face comes on the screen or something. Then we cut back to the gun battery, cut back to looking at it, and it goes like, and like looks away or something to show that it's no longer interested. And we see the ship fly up past it. All this happens in like a few seconds, by the way. I'm just giving a lot of detail for the sake of context. Angle on the spittle runner, it finally shoots up, clearing the top, and there's a brief, blinding flash of light as our eyes adjust to whatever's on the inside of this massive disc. We cut to inside and see, scene 3B, the exterior of the Irken solar city. Now, if I'm doing my job right, there should be a thing on screen showing it. I'm imagining a massive array of Irken structures, layers and layers of interlocking disks, like it's a city that grew from Irk's surface and spread out to consume the entire solar system, including the sun. So everything, including the sun, has been captured by these massive interlocking disks that are peppered with buildings, dense clutters of Irken advertisements floating everywhere, ships flying all over the place. It's busy, Think Food Cordia, but on a solar system-sized scale, and everything is being forced to orbit around a central point, which we'll get to it in a second, but it's planet Irk, of course. So as you see here on the script, we track the security rudder as it enters this solar system-sized city, passing through planets, and yes, even Irk's massive sun, all captured by the disks, which all spin around a central point. Scene C3C, planet Irk. We're viewing it from orbit right now, high orbit. We're focusing in on it, and like I imagine a mechanical sign sort of enters the scene, like and unfolds in front of the camera to show. And like the text is Irken at first, and then it glitches and stutters into English, and we see that it says planet Irk, capital of the Irken Empire, just to add to the drama of the scene, make it really spectacular and insane. The planet sits apart from the others as the most important object in the entire array. It's surrounded by one final thing, a giant toll ring that like encloses it and keeps it separate from everything else. Without it, there's no access to Irk. Everything has to pass through there. So the security runner flies through it. We don't cut to inside the toll ring. We sort of like, maybe if my arm is the toll ring here, we sort of follow the spindle runner as it flies through it and comes out the other side and passes on to the planet itself. Something like that, anyways. I hope I'm being clear. Anyways, so we cut to the Irken capital at night. Whenever I say Irken capital or Irken capital city, that refers to the city on the surface of planet Irk itself, right? Like at the very heart of this giant city, the planet itself, planet Irk at night. We get an aerial view as the ship passes through some clouds, and we look down on the city below, very, very vertigo-inducing, very high up and stuff. Lots of ships and traffic and all that. Get a few more shots of our normal Irken city life as the spindle runner passes. All these shots so far are just to establish things. Again, no dialogue yet because we're just establishing the environment and the feel of things. Let me go down. Okay, so scene 5, exterior Spike of Judgment night. This whole tall, imposing, ominous building surrounded by an arena of sorts. On the outside surface of the spike is a massive monitor, like embedded in the side of it, currently inactive, just displaying like a looping, spinning Irken logo or something. This will be used to televise everything, all the trials that happen within it and stuff. The spindle runner lands at like a docking pad on the outside of the Spike of Judgment, like right at the front of it. Squeech is unceremoniously just ejected out. He lands face first and is grabbed and picked up or taken inside by 2 Irken guards. And we follow them into the pitch black darkness of the Spike of Judgment and boom, cut to black for a second. And then we fade in inside the room, the Spike of Judgment itself. Later comes on the screen, maybe it's Irken text, and then it glitches and says later in English or something like that. Anyways, it's later. We've established that. Squeech is being judged. The 3 judge control brains loom above him, and they pronounce his fate, and we're like slowly panning around and like maybe some ominous shots and stuff, and 2 guards are on standby to watch this unfold.
Hideous.
Vile. Disgusting.
We have our ruling. Irken Squeech's ID pack is damaged and has led to a corrupt data path. He is a defective. His data shall not be allowed to contaminate the collective, and will therefore be neutralized. Transfer him to main processing immediately.
No, please!
Anyway, so then we cut to the hallway of Judgment. Squeech is we cut to elsewhere. It's some other hallway inside of the building. Cut there. Squeech is taken out of an elevator. The doors open and we see him emerge, being drugged down the hall with 2 guards. Maybe they kick a discarded pack aside to show that this is the place where defectives go for their punishment, possible execution, or whatever horrible assignments they're given after this. Anyways, it's scary and ominous and spooky and such, and poor Squeech is going to be our example.
No! I'm not a defective! You've got it all wrong!
They arrive at the end of the hallway where there's like a conveyor belt feeding into the wall, and it's waiting to take him further deeper into the structure.
You've got it all wrong!
The guards pause, exchange glances, and then just shove him unceremoniously onto the conveyor belt, like press a button, the thing that activates, and they just walk away. We follow Squeech into the conveyor belt, and then cut to the processing of Judgment. It's a big, interior chamber, countless defectives on conveyor belts everywhere. I don't know if you've seen it, the baggage scene from Toy Story 2. Just look it up if you haven't seen it. That's what I'm going for here. Defectives and packages and stuff all on sorts of conveyor belts. They're all just sort of blank expression. Like, I have no justification for why they don't just jump up and leave, but they're defectives, so maybe they just don't think most clearly, or you know. Anyways, we come to we follow Squeech as he's taken up to a specific panel. An Irken inspector is sitting there in front of a giant computer monitor and stuff. Maybe he's got a soda or something in one hand, or a sandwich. He's like pressing buttons and stuff. Squeech arrives at this guy's station. Dude, press the button. Whoosh, 2 cables whip out and attach onto Squeech's pack. And like we see on the monitor to show his like data is being neutralized, cut off from the rest of the Irkens. Like we can see a smiley face turning to a frowny face. Maybe we can see a no Wi-Fi symbol pop up or something. Anyway, to communicate to the audience that his data is currently cut off from the rest so that he's no longer part of the Irken Empire's collective consciousness, or whatever you want to call it, whatever that pack Wi-Fi network is. The internet, the Irken's internet, basically. He's cut off. Then the inspector presses a few more buttons. The cables detach. Defective logo is then, like, you know, another more buttons. A defective logo violently, big giant machine stamps it onto his head real fast and violently. Maybe we hear a pig squeal sound emanate from his body. Not from his mouth, just his body. Boom! Smack right into his face just before impact. And then I imagine like a tube comes down and picks him up and takes him up through several layers into a secondary chamber up above, where a second Irken operator is like operating a giant mortar cannon that Squeech, like a package is assembled around Squeech or whatever. Maybe the package is assembled down below. He's fed into this giant mortar cannon. Obviously it's a repurposed military grade thing meant to shoot ships out of the atmosphere or something. And it's been repackaged and repurposed to launch defectives to their newest assignments. So Squeech is loaded up into that. And the operator, boom, fires it. And like when the gun is fired, I imagine like, you know, it does that thing where it goes in its casing, you know, big, like really intense. We cut to the outside and see this. It's such overkill. It is so overkill for that. As you can see here in scene 9B, right here, exterior Irken Capital Night, we've like followed it from a few shots, like we follow the package as it shoots across the city, miraculously not hitting anything. That is some really good computational technology and algorithms and stuff that the Irkens have, I guess. Finally arcs over a lot of stuff down into... Cut to Defective Area 9 at night. Massive imposing structure. We see the entrance. Big. I imagine like the things at the mall where you insert a coin and it spirals down like a black hole into the center. That's on top so that it can catch defectives and they go down a hole into the actual Defective Area 9 structure. Really humiliating and stupid. But that's where Squeech's package lands. We follow its smoke trail. Boom, it lands. And then, like I said, down into the structure. Cut to inside of Defective Area 9, and we track Squeech's package. It falls, lands on the ground, busts open, and we zoom out to get a full view of the entire structure inside of here. Defective Area 9's interior. To describe it to you, it's like we see a series of converging conveyor belts from all over the place that are currently being operated by defectives. Defectives themselves, of all shapes and sorts, have been stamped with the defective logo. They've already been processed. Now they're here making snacks, and none of the defectives are on the conveyor belt. At least they're not supposed to be on there. Maybe 1 or 2 could be, just for the sake of funny visual humor. But they're making snacks, and what we see is like there's 2 types of equipments the defectives have based on all these different branches that are coming in. You either got defectives that have sludge machines at the start of these branches where they squeeze a bunch of gross gray goop onto the conveyor belt. I don't know if you've seen the SpongeBob episode where Mr. Krabs sells the franchise to another. He sells the Krusty Krab to a big franchise, and like they turn the Krabby Patties into this gray goop that's just molded into the shape of a Krabby Patty and baked and spray painted, basically. That's what I'm imagining here. Some gray indescript goop is squeezed onto there, sent down the conveyor belt, and then further down, various stations are designated for various different types of snack foods. One stamps on it and it turns into a soda, complete with wrapping and packaging and everything, or turns it into French fries, or anything like that. That's the basic gist of it. And we can take all this in with one shot when we zoom out and see it. And also in that shot, another sign unfolds from above, dangling down, really jerky and kind of bad and crummy, very damaged sign, worn out, secondhand. It says Defective Area 9 on the sign, and then it creaks a little and then falls off camera to the ground, crash, something like that. Maybe we hear someone get hurt by it. Then we track some snacks as they're manufactured, blah, blah, blah. I've already gone over the process. And we also, maybe we also see Squeech get a drone float up to him and shove the equipment onto him and send him off to his station. That sort of thing. That way we can get a visual shorthand for what's going on here. Like I said, all this will take place in a far less time than it took me to say it, because we have visual shorthand to communicate it. Anyway, so we track some snacks as they're manufactured. First, Defective's wearing squelchers, like giant cow udders, gray industrial goop, like I said. Further down, they stamp it into actual shapes of things. They continue on. We see a certain Defective who, currently not on shift, I guess, or whatever. Eric, he waits by the conveyor belt's end where 2 sodas arrive, and he takes them off the conveyor belt before they can drop back into the very back of the building where there's like a giant hole in the back where all the snacks are sent into for further packaging and stuff before they're shipped off to the tallest, you know? So they're all vanishing down this final chute in the back, and Eric takes 2 sodas off the conveyor belt before they can go there. And he walks off, and we see a nearby vending machine for the Defectives to use. And he stands in front of it, opens the vending machine, loads the 2 sodas in and closes it. And then his pack shoots out a tentacle like we see Zim do in Tak, the Hideous New Girl. And Eric actually buys the 2 sodas that he just took off the vending machine. He buys them from the vending machine that he just took off the conveyor belt and takes them out and then walks off again. Yes. So at the far end of the facility, we follow him. At the far end of this facility, some of the idle Defectives are standing around. Some are munching on snacks. Some are just doing nothing. Some are clustered around a giant, massive monitor that's displaying propaganda and stuff, I guess, standard Irken television or whatever. Displaying the Irken Empire currently conquering Mikrob. Maybe we'll have the Irken announcer in there. A lot of this stuff is ideas I've had after the audio's been recorded. That's why you don't have audio for it. But we see Irken Empire conquering Mikrob. I imagine we see the resisting and the Mikrob making a final stand, charging at the Irken Empire, and then turning and fleeing in terror as these giant battlenecks and stuff come in and just trash them. And of course, we also get a few shots of the Armada and the Massive and stuff just bombarding the planet. It's so hilariously one-sided. Anyways, Eric takes a look at it for a second and then keeps walking. He maybe opens a soda can or something. And then he keeps the other tucked under his arm. He walks over and he sees someone else. He parts the crowd and we see that Merp is standing there. She's ranting and raving. She's standing in front of the monitor. She's ranting at the gathering crowd and none of them are listening to her. They're all looking up at the monitor. They're all mindlessly watching TV. But she thinks that she's got their attention. And she's just very, here's Merp. I'll let her say her spiel.
I'm sick of it, you know. They lock us up here like slaves, like stupid snack slaves.
And then Eric arrives on the scene.
But we are snack slaves. Soda?
Offers her the spare soda.
But, well, okay, yes.
And then she takes it.
But still, I can't take it much more. We must uprise. We must rebel. And this time, we will. This time, I have the perfect plan.
Oh, really? So, what is it this time?
I've sent someone to get him.
And then we have a series of spit takes here. I want each spit take to drench Merp with more and more and more soda.
You mean him?
No, the other guy.
You sent someone to get him?
Yeah, him.
Who'd you send?
Her.
Her?
I'm not going to go into it, but we do have an alternate idea here for a different angle on the spit take. And also, I'm just now realizing I'm so sorry, guys. Okay, sorry about that. Starter difficulties. Hopefully that'll be the last time we have to deal with that. Anyway, so we cut to outside Defective Area 9. We see that the giant building only has one teeny tiny entrance and 2 guards. I'm calling them Bob and Larry. They're standing on the either side of it. They hear knocking from inside the building, inside the doorway, and they exchange glances because they're confused. Huh?
Huh?
And then the knocking gets more urgent. So they press a button and open the door, and they peer down the long, dark, spooky hallway. And then we cut to inside the hallway of them looking out. Nothing. Dead silence. Spooky, ominous. The guards just sort of shrug to each other. And then go back to standing guard, but they leave the door open because they're not the brightest. And so as they just leave it open, wait a second, and then suddenly, boom, someone silhouetted just bursts out of the building and goes fleeing. And the sudden motion startles them and causes them to fall over.
Whoa, whoa, whoa!
Meanwhile, there's like alarms going off, and we see a sign above the door, a monitor above the door with Irken text written on it and stuff. And helpfully, one of the guards, Larry, reads it out loud as a translation for the audience.
The escaped prisoner?
And then realization dawns on them, and they give chase.
The escaped prisoner!
Okay, so they go running off. We cut to an Irken shipyard at night. There's ships coming and going, busy, standard thing. I want a giant hole. We haven't gotten concept art for this yet, so I do want it. A giant, massive shaped indentation in the ground where it's obvious the massive is supposed to park. And it's not there right now because obviously it's off conquering Migron, but just I think that'd be a cool touch. Regardless, though, cut to some rows of spittle runners. The escapee runs over to one and jumps in it and takes off. And it's a really bad-looking spittle runner. Like, it's obviously down for maintenance or something. It's a piece of junk. But the escapee, she, we don't know who it is yet, but I know who it is. So, Smoots, she jumps into it and takes off. And then the two guards come running up behind her.
Hey, get back here right now!
They hop in, take off in their security class spittle runner, you know, with the flashing lights and stuff, and then a whole fleet of them come following. Think like, you know, in Invasion of the Idiot Dog Brain, that episode where Gur takes over the house and all the cop cars are just piling up and clogging the street and being very inefficient with their chase, but there's a lot of them, and that's the sort of thing I'm going for here. A whole bunch of Irken ships take off after this escaped prisoner. Cut to scene 13B. The security runners are all flying through the capital city, firing lasers, missing, hitting vehicles and buildings and signs, miraculously failing to hit the escaped prisoner, who's leading them on quite the chase through planet Irk's atmosphere, up into the sky, and we're following them as they pierce the clouds and they head towards the toll ring. So then we cut to scene number 14. We see it's an establishing shot of the toll ring to remind the audience, hey, remember this? We're going back to here now. And we cut to inside of the toll ring. And we see like a moment of calm. We establish, you know, traffic coming and going. A honeycomb of toll ring guards all on the inside, peppering the inside like a giant hive of people, border security officers and stuff. It's like a massive checkpoint, massive security checkpoint. Everything is normal for a split second, just long enough for the audience to see what it's like when it's normal. And then the chase music cuts back in, and the ship enters through the wrong way, and they're going the wrong way through traffic. Lasers still missing, chaos, explosions, it's insanity. And then we see a viral tank looming ahead, you know, those big snack-carrying ships that we see in the show. We see one looming ahead, and the chase is heading straight for it. And we cut to inside of the viral tank. I had this idea. What if we see the interior of it from the crew's point of view? They see the oncoming chase, they panic, pilots pressing buttons and stuff, and they're trying to swerve and get out of the way of the chase, but this thing is massive and hard to maneuver. It's way too late for that. So we cut back outside of the viral tank, and we see this giant ship turning, trying to rotate slowly, but it just wedges itself. It gets lodged sideways in the tunnel, like a piece of food caught in your throat or something, right? This thing is lodged sideways in the massive entrance to the toll ring and like clogging and blocking the way. The escaped spittle runner flies up and over it. The rest of the security runners all slam into the side of the viral tank and explode. Boom, 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 boom. Fiery explosions enveloping the inside of this. The viral tank's probably fine, but those spittle runners, they're all dead. And Bob and Larry's is the only one that actually emerges from the fire unscathed. They fly up and over and continue the chase. So then we cut to the solar city itself. Remember the massive spinning disks, planets that are captured by the rings and everything, giant outer space city that swallows up the whole Irken solar system. The chase weaves through there for a little bit longer, just for the sake of a cool opening action shot. I will admit that's the only reason I'm doing this. Eventually, the chase leads to the outer edge of the solar disk where they score a lucky shot, or what might actually be funnier is if Bob and Larry still fail to hit this escapee, and one of the outer security guns on the outer edge of the disk just looks up, fires, and like nicks the ship, just hits it, pings off of it. The escapee is damaged and sputtering, so like it's flying and then it gets hit, and then like it's obviously sputtering and stuff. But we see its engine charge up real fast, real bright, and then it takes off to light speed, and leaving a trail of smoke in its wake. It's gone, but we see the trail of smoke vanishing off into the infinite void where it took off. And then the camera slowly pans over to Bob and Larry's final spindle runner, and it's just hovering quietly. And then we zoom in and fade to the inside of their ship. And after a moment of silence, this conversation takes place.
Did she?
She engaged the hyperdrive.
But we don't have hyperdrive.
No, we don't.
So how are we gonna catch her?
We won't!
And it just smacks Bob.
Oh!
We're done for, you idiots! Done! Toe's dead! We are dead!
I imagine he's like shaking him by the collar and stuff too. He's scared.
But I'm not good at being dead!
Then the radio hisses to life.
Dookie number 2. Dookie number 2. Come in. Over.
This is Dookie number 2. Tarkin was, destroyed. Obliterated, in fact. Obliterated into a million tiny pieces. She's so dead that you can't even see the pieces.
Really?
Uh-huh!
Darn, I liked that ship. Oh well, wrap up your paperwork and get back here. Over.
Roger that. Dookie number 2, out.
And then he like turns to Bob suddenly like, Dookie number 2 out. Now listen up. Like he looks at him.
Now listen up. None of this happened. Got it? She didn't escape. Nobody knows about this, and we blew her up!
We did?
Yeah. We did.
Okay. Anyways, then we cut back to the outside of their ship. We see their ship take off, but the camera lingers behind and then pans back over to the trail of smoke. And maybe some ominous, creepy music fades in. Dun, dun, dun. Fade to black, or cut to black, or whatever. Then a really cool, slick opening sequence plays out with the opening credits, the Invaders In theme that I made, all whipped up, all epic sounding and stuff. We get all the volunteers' names listed through a creative opening credits with a bunch of maybe CGI or 2D models or concept art or whatever. And it just has to be really cool. And it has to be a love letter to the fandom and everyone who worked on this. Okay, so there's sequence 1. Hopefully it's all right. There will be less interruptions the further in we go. I just have the first few sequences are going to be like that because we got to establish things. But the further on we go, the less I will be doing that. So thank you very much, everyone. Hope this is helpful. Message me with questions, and I will try to get sequence 2 done ASAP. Bye.